Nobody's going to hire me to become professional manager. And Steve Jobs was an entrepreneur. Steve Jobs can never be a good professional manager. That's what happened. Do you know when Steve Jobs suddenly, when Apple becomes so big because they go IPO, they got $200 million US dollars, and Steve Jobs is not even a college graduate. He didn't even finish one semester in college. So how can he be the CEO of a big company? So at that time, Steve Jobs were mingled with the Stanford students, and he was trying to say, okay, I want to recruit a good CEO for our company. And then they said, oh, why not look at Scully? Scully just was our speaker last week, and that guy was good. He was the CEO of Pepsi Cola. At that time, you still remember the Pepsi challenge that Scully was doing.
Yes.
So I said, why don't you recruit Scully? So, Steve Jobs went to talk to Scully, and Scully said, look, Pepsi Cola is maybe 10 times, 20 times bigger than Apple at that time. I mean, why am I going to join such a small company?
And he was already the president of Pepsi Cola.
Yeah. Yes, Steve Jobs was the CEO of Pepsi Cola. So, Steve Jobs, they became friends later on after a few months, and that's where he aired the most famous burst. And when he said, tell Scully, he said, are you going to spend the rest of your lives selling sugar water, or are you going to join me and make a difference in this world? And after a few weeks, Scully joined Apple, and that's where the trouble begins. When Scully became the CEO,
he fired him.
Steve Jobs worked under Scully because Steve Jobs can never be a good professional manager. Yes, entrepreneur mindset. Every time when they said they're going to come out with a Macintosh model, whatever, it's going to be delayed. It was at one time when they came out with the model, and then when Steve Jobs was reviewing the model, and he said, "Oh, what's this humming sound here? I do not like the sound." And
he was a perfectionist.
Yeah, and the engineer was saying, "No, you need this humming sound because you need a small funder, no, so that's going to go overheat. All computers has this small motor funder." No, Steve Jobs said, "No, I do not like this." So they go back to the drawing board. It took them another delay of another 10 months. And then when they came out with a new computer without that fan motor, Steve Jobs liked it. Okay, they start selling. Then after 6 months, all of them would return because all of them got overheated. And Scully cannot stand Steve Jobs at that time. So he went to the board and fired him.
He was a pain in the ass,
But then do you know that after 10, 15 years, actually Apple was on the verge of bankruptcy already, and they took back Steve Jobs. You know that when the board decided to take back Steve Jobs, so you know what's the 10 best business decision in the past 100 years in the history of the American business?
That one?
One of them is when Apple decided to hire back Steve Jobs as their CEO. Another one, I forgot the 8, but there's another one. You know what's the other one? When Henry Ford decided to double the pay of all of his workers during that time. Because when Henry Ford was coming out with the T model, suddenly he has a hard time selling his T model because the income of the workers are not enough to buy the T model. So it increased double, and everybody's to follow. I mean, I got so fascinated by all of these business decisions.
So the Sterling paper, it still produces and manufactures the same volume of stationaries and paper it used to produce maybe a decade ago, 2 decades ago?
Martin, in the 70s, we are number one in stationaries in the letter sets. We even came out with perfume letter sets and all this.
Yes.
Fancy designs, love story designs and all this. And then we're not going to say we are number one in cards, but of course Hallmark's really number one in cards. When we came out our own Sterling greeting cards, I think we placed second to Hallmark. At that time you have Gibsons, you have American Greetings. But then, stationaries and greeting cards are things of the past. With this modern iPhones and all of this technology.
Yes.
I don't think even National Bookstore is greatly affected by greeting cards because you can hardly find 2 or 3 card backs inside a National Bookstore. And even for notebooks, I'm forecasting that maybe after 5 to 10 years, 5 years, the longest 10 years, then the notebook's going to be out. So we have to be prepared. And I'm glad to say that we were able to be very resilient. We were able to expand to other lines of business.
Did you see this coming?
The downfall of greeting cards came so sudden. I mean, something that it's a matter of only 2 to 5 years now. Suddenly it's out already.
Yes.
Before when you why we came to the greeting cards business. When my father was still alive, we operated a small bookstore at that time. We're not even in retail outlets at that time. We operated a small bookstore, and then my father would always import Chinese greeting cards for Chinese New Year. And these greeting cards are being produced in Hong Kong and Taiwan, and they were heavily embossed with golds and very nice designs, Chinese designs. And then when my father passed away, we decided that, we continue the legacy of my father, so we want to go into the greeting cards business. But at that time, it's being dominated by Hallmark, American Greetings, Gibsons. So I went to New York, to the New York Stationery Fair. I want to look for the 4th largest greeting card company. I found a company called Drawing Board. It's based in Texas. So they are the 4th largest. So we started having licensing with them, producing the cards here, and then we even hired some British guy who works in Europe for some greeting cards company working for us. We can both expand our business, but that problem, this one other problem, because when we came out greeting cards, no bookstore is going to carry our greeting cards. Of course, National Bookstore is not going to carry other greeting cards except Hallmark. You go to Alimar's at that time, Alimar's going to carry only Gibsons. And then you go to the department store, we have 3 greeting cards company already. We cannot even have any space for you.
Yes.
So at that time, there was this department store called Isitan, who is just opening one in Carriedo. He said, why don't you take over our whole stationery department? Maybe the whole 500, 600 square meters. You operate it, you put your own card rack. So that's how we came into the retail business again. After that central bookstore, many years, we came into retail business, and one store leads to another, and then suddenly we have 20, 30, 40 stores. And we call it Expressions because at that time, it's really a greeting card store. And I was telling myself that in Expressions, you go inside, you can find not only Sterling Greetings, not only Drawing Board, but you can also find Hallmark, Gibsons, and other. So you have the whole social expressions there. And then what happened also at that time, National Bookstores was not happy because we are competing with them in greeting cards. We are competing with them in retail outlets and all these things. But sometimes, it's how you understand each other. And of course, we have also our competitors who are telling National Bookstores, why do you have to buy from Sterling? They're competing with you both in greeting cards and retail outlets. So actually, can you imagine that they stopped buying from us? Our sales went down by more than 80%. They were only order blackboard erasers, which we are the only one doing, or notarizes. The others, photo albums, whatever, then they're going to order from us. So that's where you exercise your entrepreneurial spirit. You know what? I developed myself. I mean, when you go to Harvard, there's so many business principles. Of course, the latest ones was Balanced Scorecard by Robert Kaplan. You have Blue Ocean Strategy, Red Ocean Strategy, whatever KRS. But I stick to my own. I mean, it's really competitiveness now. Of course, you have to have your own product leadership. You have to have your customer intimacy, and also, of course, operational excellence. This is what I base my business. So I have to practice customer intimacy to the fullest with National Bookstore. And I'm happy that we were able to clear up the misunderstanding with Mrs. Ramos. And then, in fact, when there was a strike on Hallmark when they do not have any greeting cards to sell, I pump in all of my greeting cards to National Bookstores. And that's where we were able to develop that kind of friendship. And we are right now, have a very good relationship with them.
A good business relationship. All right. So, apart from the greeting cards, you still have the notebooks.
Yes.
And apart from the notebooks, what else do you have in the paper company?
You'll be surprised because Stationery is paper. You have ball pens. We are the distributor of pentel pens, marking
supplies,
pens, all the office supplies. You have drawing books. You have almost everything, from paper clips to whatever things that you are doing.
Wow.
And then we are also in paper cups also. We are doing paper cups also.
And you distribute this to National Bookstore and
supermarkets, department stores.
And you mentioned you still have about 20 expressions outlets?
45 to
45 around the Philippines. Around the Philippines. Nalala ko nabanggit mo kasi yung downfall ng greeting cards, no? Because when I was studying in Australia, this was back 1995, 6, 7, 8, 9. I used to write a lot here in the Philippines. Would send my girlfriend a greeting card or a letter, and then suddenly there was an explosion in email. No, this was about 1995, 6, 7, 8. Tapos 8 wala, halos lahat nag-email na, so natigil na lahat yun, ano? Was this the year na nag-dip yung cards, or 2000 na?
I think the Philippines come much later, no? I mean, in the early 2000. Kasi medyo delay ang effect ang sa Pilipinas. And especially when text really came in, ano, talaga, that really killed the greeting cards. You can just text your own your greetings to your girlfriends, whatever.
So when did you decide to get into the business of rice production, the seeds production, and the call center? Ano ba yung nauna? After nung, kasi sabi mo, kailangan as a businessman, entrepreneur, you have to be really prepared to venture out and get into real estate, etc. But before you answer that question, let's play one of your favorite songs again. This is a Scarborough Fair?
Yeah.
What makes this one of your favorites?
From the Sound of Silence, I mean, like Simon and Garfunkel.
What makes this one of your favorite songs?
The tone and everything. I mean, if you hear the songs, I mean, you feel so relaxed. Yeah, and I like these two artists, Simon Garfunkel, the way how they sing it. Yeah.
Is this your way to relax yourself after a heavy day in the boardroom, in your business operations, planning, listening to music?
If you go to my house, I mean, my study room, I mean, you have, of course, the sounds or all kinds of music there. Even my car, I mean, I really have to have soft music in my car. But my wife was cautioning me, I mean, do not have those kind of too relaxing music because the driver might get sleepy along the way. But that's how you relax in the car.
And a glass of wine to go with it?
No, I don't drink wine.
Don't drink wine. You don't drink alcohol?
No. The entire family doesn't drink alcohol.
Wow. All right. Let's hear this Scarborough Fair by Simon and Garfunkel. We'll be right back with Mr. Lim. Don't go away. You are still listening to Martin's Man Cave on Podcast.Ph, and with us right now is Mr. Henry Lim, or Dr. Henry Lim, of the Sterling Group of Companies, including the Agritech, makers of the hybrid rice known as the Jasponica. Earlier, sir, we were talking about how you would venture out into a business. When do you know when to venture out, and what made you decide? What actually made you decide to get into real estate and all of these call center and now the rice business?
If opportunity knocks at your door, I mean, you better grab the opportunity. I mean, I went to real estate at that time when everybody was crazy about real estate. Of course, we concentrate ourselves in industrial subdivisions, and we would like to believe that in Bulacan we have the best industrial subdivisions, the province of Bulacan. I mean, the Sterling Industrial Park, the Sterling Techno Park, of course, was one in Cavite also, and the Business Park. And of course, also call center. We used to invest in a high-rise story in Ortigas. During the times when real estate suddenly hits a downturn in financial crisis in 97 to 2000. So, we have my friends and I, my classmates, actually, we build the buildings. We're gonna sell the building. So we have to draw lots and we have to buy our own. So owning a few story of the building. So I decided, why not to convert that into call center? So we put up a call center also later on. So remember, Senate President Drilon was the one who graced the opening of a call center, and he was saying that he was very surprised that Henry is the only person that he knew what was so diversified from paper. May call center, may agriculture pa, kung ano pang nasa ano, So, but I'm happy, I mean, business is, everything is really the same thing, concepts now. That's why, I applied operational excellence, product leadership, customer intimacy in all of my business, whether it's being real estate, whether it's retailing, whether it's agriculture or manufacturing, paper business. But, agriculture is farthest from my mind. If you ask me how much is 1 kilo of rice selling the palengke way back in 1997, wala kong alam yun.
You wouldn't know.
I wouldn't even know. It's my mother, my wife was
buying
the rice.
Tanungin mo asawa ko.
But lately, when there is some shortage of rice, when the price of rice goes up, a lot of people will call me. Albino Chico will call me. ABCB and Inquirer will ask me. Even government officials will ask me. They thought they called me Mr. Rice. Although recently, they changed my name already from Mr. Rice to Mr. Rice Bucket. The
Rice Bucket Challenge. Yeah,
the rice. I initiated the Rice Bucket Challenge. But then I have to tell you that in 1997, our vice president was Arab Estrada. I have a good relationship with Arab at that time, and he has no portfolio at that time, being an opposition vice president. We'll wake up very late in the morning, and then in the afternoon call up some of his friends to his house. So when I go to his house, since I can drink, I don't smoke. So we just talk. And in one of these chikan, he was very serious and he was telling me, he said, Henry, alam mo, pag naging presidente ako ng Pilipinas, I would like to put agriculture as my top priority. Sabi ko, aba, very street smart pala si Arab, di ba? Even mention about agriculture. He said, Henry, look at China. They have a big population. Yet they can even export their grains. Ano bang sekreto nila? So that arouses my curiosity. And because of that, I make my own research. I found out that China has 22% of the world population. It's 1.2 billion against 6 billion during that time in 1997. Although they are around 1.4 against 7 billion already at that time. 22% entire world population. But the arable land area in China is only less than 7% of the total arable land area in the world. How can a 7% arable land area fit 22% population? So I researched back to 1949. That was a year the Communist Party liberated China. China was only producing less than 110 million metric tons of grains per year. Western economists predicting by the year 2000, China will be needing at least 500 million metric tons of grains. China can never produce that quantity. China is going to self-destruct. They are going to starve. And true to what the Western economists have been predicting, the 50s, 60s, going to the 70s, life was so difficult in China. Every year, 10, 20 million people died of hunger. In 1963 alone, 43 million people died of hunger in 1 year. And because at that time, China's behind bamboo curtain, all the bad news were being suppressed. But right now, it's starting to come out. But then, what did the Chinese government do? They adopted widespread farming, even at very low yield. They cut down all the trees in the forest. They planted it with rice. They burned all the grass pasture just to plant rice. They even have to reclaim the beautiful lake just to plant rice. Ngunit, kulang pa rin. They have to resort to one-child policy, population control, food coupon, rice coupon. But in early 1998, when the former Prime Minister of China came over to the Philippines, it was Prime Minister Chu Rongqi. I had the privilege to meet him at the lunch at that time. And he was telling everybody there, he was so proud. He said, look, do you know that China right now, even if they do not produce a single grain of rice in 1 year, they will not go hungry. because they have more than 500 million metric tons of grains in their warehouse. And he was telling everybody that he has a terrible headache at this point, because in spite of calamities and natural disaster in China, they still have so much rice and grains that they do not even have enough warehouse to store them. So every time, according to Premier Chu Rongqi, he goes out to the field near the mountainside when he finds farmers planting rice. He ordered them to stop planting rice. They're planting back the trees, returning to the forest. They're planting back the grass, returning to the pastures to rest cattle. They're beautifying the lake already. China's for the past 10 years returned more than 6-7 million hectares of this rice land back to the forest, the pasture, and the lake.
And what's their... What did they do?
Oh, kaya nga. Ano bang sekreto?
When
Arab finally became president in 1998, in July, within 30 days, he sent his first Secretary of Agriculture. It was Dr. William Dar. He sent his Agrarian Reform Secretary, Boy Morales. And then with some of the officers of Federation of Filipino Chinese Chamber of Commerce, you go to China, you learn. At that time, they traveled to China. They traveled there for more than a month. And then when they came back, I asked some of them, what did you learn? About they traveled from south to north of China. And then I asked them, do you know anybody by the name of Professor Yuan Longping? Yuan Longping, it doesn't even ring a bell to them. I said, my gosh, if you doesn't know about this person, what are you guys doing in China? Don't you know Professor Yuan Longping is the national treasure of China? He's the father of hybrid rice. He's the word. His stature is even higher than Deng Xiaoping.
He holds the secret.
Yes, and then of course, I think it's worth more than $45 billion because of his contribution to China.
Wow.
His stature is higher than Deng Xiaoping for the reason that there was a saying in China that there are only two Ping in China. If you want prosperity, you rely on Deng Xiaoping. After all, Deng Xiaoping is the one who opened up China. But if you want to eat rice, then you have to rely on Professor Yuan Longping. Yuan Longping's stature later became higher than Deng Xiaoping because in 1999, the Chinese astronomer discovered a distant star in the galaxies. They did not name that star Chairman Mao nor Deng Xiaoping. They named it Yuan Longping star. For me, I think it's providential that I was able to meet with Professor Yuan Longping early 1998 through a common friend.
You met him in China?
In China, and we developed a special friendship together.
He's still around?
He's 84 years old already.
And he developed your seeds?
At that time, when I met him in China, agriculture was farthest from my mind. But then my friend was telling me, he said, look, you are very lucky. Because Professor Longping was telling me that they have so much grains and rice in China that he wants to step out of China. And I'll be a stepping stone outside of China. I was very hesitant at that time, but my friend was saying that, do you know that the Fortune Food Company in America is inviting the professor to be the advisor? Refused. Even Malaysian ministers has been inviting him to Malaysia several times. He showed no interest. Or even Li Ka-shing, the richest man in Asia right now, is putting up price research to the southern part of China and asking him to it. Again, he showed no interest. I do not know what kind of chemistry kami dalawa na gusto natin tulungan. But Martin, I'm an entrepreneur. And one of the biggest ways of entrepreneur is not to take risks at all. I have to take calculated risks. So the first thing I came back to the Philippines, I went to IRI. IRI is International Rice Research Institute.
Yeah.
It's a world authority in rice. So I'd go to IRI. I talked to the number 2 man of IRI. It was Dr. Bermani, a very well-known Indian rice scientist. And I asked him point blank. I said, Dr. Bermani, how are we developing our rice program in IRI, especially hybrid rice? Exact words of Dr. Bermani to me was, frankly speaking, Mr. Lim, do you know that China has the best technology on hybrid rice? But do you know hybrid rice can only be planted a certain degree above the equator? It's only in temperate region where you can plant hybrid. After all, the Philippines belongs to a tropical setting. Or even if you come with a tropical hybrid rice, usually the taste for hybrid rice is not good. So there's no market at all. I came out of IRI practically very disappointed.
Came out with nothing.
But true to his word, Professor Yuan Longping, after 3 months, sends 3 of his men to assist me in developing hybrid rice. At that time, they bring with them 75 different Chinese hybrid rice varieties. So I leased a 5 hectares properties in Santa Cruz, Laguna, and planted all of them in small plot. The first season was a total failure. True to what Dr. Bermani was telling me. In China, in the Philippines, a cycle of rice is around 90 days to 110 days. In China, it's around 140 to 160 days. But if you say it's coming from China because of our hot weather, the flowering came too early. After 85 days, everything is finished. So practically walang laman. Puro ipa. Puro empty grains. So I cannot use any of this variety.
Let's just put some time. Let's put into context. When was this?
98.
98. All right.
Yes.
Okay.
And then 1998. At that time, I was about to give up. I was telling my mom, anyway, wala naman malaking gastos yan. So I was about to give up. But my mom was telling me, said, look, if you cannot use the seeds coming from China, why don't you develop a rice seeds that is climatized for local condition? I was telling my mom, if Erie cannot do it, instead of being subsidized by all of these rich and powerful countries, how can I do it? I said, no, you have the National Treasury of China behind you. You talk to him. So I had several teleconferences with Professor Yuan Longping. Finally, I was able to get his blessing. He said, look, you have to put up your own R&D. What? My own R&D? How much do I have to spend? I bought 40 hectares of land. I have to put up infrastructures. I spent a lot of money for that. And you should remember that was in 1998 when the financial crisis was hitting the whole of Asia.
Where was this 40 hectare? Where did you buy? In Laguna?
It's in Santa Cruz, Laguna.
Santa Cruz, Laguna. Okay.
So I put up, and I was even ridiculed by my friends. He said, look, no businessman in his right mind is going to plant rice. You're not even planting rice. You are even going to R&D. That's a bottomless pit. But at that time, because with the encouragement of my mother, I went to that. I have so much failures. From 1998, 99, 2000, I cannot came up with the good varieties. I think at that time, 1999, when Angara became the Secretary of Agriculture during Arab's time, the second year, the President and Secretary Angara visited my rice field. At that time, I have some promising varieties, but I cannot release it for the reason that I cannot stabilize the parental line. Unless I stabilize it, the seeds I'm going to give to the farmers, sometimes malakas ang ani, sometimes walang ani at all. So I cannot release it. Until, 2000, November 17. We opened a department store in Olongapo. On our way back that night, 10 o'clock at night, our family van was hit by a container trailer head on. In that tragic accident, I lost my mother, who was sitting on my left side. God. I lost my younger brother, Willie, who was sitting on my right side. My driver died the next day. I was seriously injured. I have 5 broken ribs. I have a cracked pelvic. I have hematothorax on my blood vessels in my lung basket. The doctor has to insert a tube, withdraw more than 2 liters of blood out of my lungs. My hemoglobin dropped to 7.6. I suffer from vertigo. I lost my sense of balance. I thought I'm going to die. I was cursing to all the saints in heaven. Why this has to happen to me? But Martin, I'm going to tell you. Exactly 2 months after, January 17, 2001, at the middle of the night, a leading scientist, Professor Zhang, biglang, according to him, he was aroused from sleep because his bed is moving. He thought it's an earthquake. Kala na may lindol. When he opened his eyes, he was so surprised to see my mom standing in front of his bed talking to him. My mom, in spite of being, was born here in the Philippines, but my mom went back to China for education. She's very well versed with Mandarin. And these guys, this professor only speak Mandarin. When they got sick, my mother was taking care of them. They are very attached to my mother. That night, my mother told Professor Zhang, you go back to the field the next morning and take a careful look at all the rice flower. We have around hundreds of plots doing the crossbreeding. Professor Zhang was even arguing with my mother. He said, look, yesterday I inspected all of them. None of them are stabilized. You will be plowing under tomorrow and then I'll do it all over again. That's what we do. If you fail, you do it again and again. According to Professor Zhang, he woke up the second time.
Before we move on to that, because that's a very exciting story. So before Professor Zhang goes and check the rice,
yes.
the rice flowers. Let's play one of your favorite songs first, and then let's talk about that. Okay?
Sure.
This is Moon River.
Yes, by Andy Williams.
By Andy Williams. And what makes Moon River one of your favorite tracks?
I was always so enchanted by the sound of Andy Williams. I mean, his voice is so captivating. Even it so strikes me because all of these 3 singers are all male. Elvis Presley, Simon Garfunkel, Andy Williams. Because I sometimes put myself into them and was imagining that I'm the one singing this to my girlfriends.
So that's your dream to become a singer.